can describe an event and you don't have to cry about it. You can just describe it as honestly as you can and then let the reader come to their own conclusion. And I think that brings the point better across. Go ahead.
When did gypsies first come to the United States?
The first came with the Spaniards, with the Spanish, because they were brought in as slaves. They were always, not always, but most of the time they were moved from a country to a country as slaves.
What about the Greek side of the family? You said you're part Greek.
Yes, they're amazing. They cook really good food. I mean, my family, like I said, this book kind of freed me from that whole, family. Our family has, some problems or negative things. I think everyone has that, and we concentrate and focus on that too much. But after writing the book, I realized how many wonderful things there are about family just in general.
About people.
About people, yes. And so my Greek side of the family, I have memories of both cultures from childhood, and one thing I didn't mention, and I wrote about it in the book, as a kid, I felt split between the cultures because both of them were so powerful, the Greeks, Armenians, and the Romani side. They wanted me to be either this or that. You couldn't coexist, kind of. And so I experienced something I called split nationality disorder. So if you hear it, I made it up, okay? If you see it in the book somewhere. And I think many people do feel it when they come from these kind of cultures that hold on to their traditions. Like Irish Italians used to be pretty heavy into, you're Irish or you're Italian when the family is brought together. But growing up, I realized that I am both, and that's okay. And most of us are many, and that's okay. That's even better, Diversity is what creates new life and progress. If everyone was perfect, then we wouldn't have what we have now, And from my Armenian Greek side of the family, my memories are of food, the smells, the tastes, the textures. I remember birthday tables and Christmas tables, and people talking, the conversations flowing. And I remember duduk, which is the Armenian
clarinet.
Yeah, that music. And my gypsy side of the family, I remember sitting backstage and feeling the vibration of the floor, because when the dancers are dancing, a ghetto in the middle of the city with actual walls, like cement walls, where they're planning on putting the Romani community in that town. So they're saying, we're going to give you some space, but you're going to be staying right there.
In a ghetto.
In a ghetto, like your special ghetto,
History repeats itself.
Exactly. Isn't that amazing? And then we wonder why our kids don't behave.
Even here.
Yeah. Right? We never actually grow up, it seems, right?
Where did you go for your historical research?
I mostly spoke with my family members, and also there's a few Romani authors and professors who are very, very well read in that, they know so much about the culture. One of these gentlemen, his name is Ian Hancock, Hancock, and he is a professor of linguistics at the University of Texas in Austin. So if you want to read articles on Romani culture, he's the one to go to. He's collected so much information.
He's in the back.
Is he in there? Okay,
He's in the acknowledgement.
good.
But
I
he
hope he
doesn't
knows
say who
that.
he is.
Didn't he used to live here?
I used to live.
But didn't
Oh,
Ian
him?
Hancock live in Los Angeles?
I don't know.
I just remember reading articles by him in the LA Times, maybe 20, 30 years ago. I
He's
thought it was at
all over.
UCLA or USC or something.
Maybe. I know he does guest
Oh, that could be.
professorship. It's not even a word problem.
And maybe he was here for a year.
I just have a quick question. Do Romani people, can they understand what people from Pakistan and India speak? How are the languages sisters or sort of diverged?
Well, the language is based on Sanskrit.
Yeah.
So in that respect, they can understand some of it. But there are there's hundreds of different dialects.
Right.
For example, the Russian Romani would speak a mixture of Russian and Sanskrit, and Armenian, and Romanian, and some other country, because they just mixed. They have this mixture of languages.
Can you speak to someone from Slovakia, like the Slovak woman? Slovak Romani, if you understand, if you spoke.
I could, because I speak Russian,
Right.
and the languages are very similar to
but
Russian too. It's kind of like that.
Language, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like if you speak English and you go to Scotland, you know, some people have really heavy accents, but you can kind of still understand. But then if you know the Celtic languages, not at all, right? Like the English. So there's so many, again, so many variations within the language. I know my father can understand the basics. Like no matter what Romani he meets, they find a way to communicate, even if it's just the very basic sentences. The funny thing is that almost to this day, the Romani community have retained the sect kind of a separation, you know what I'm talking about? Like in the cultures of India, they used to have sects, basically groups of people.
Untouchables and...
Yes, right? And they all have names and usually separated by either where they live or what they do for a living. So the gypsies or the Romanis retained that characteristic, even to this day. I mean, I know some of the more modern Romani will tell you, well, that's not true, but I have met people who will say to me, oh, I'm from the Johnsons family, and like I'm supposed to do I'm supposed to know what they do, even though I don't know any Johnsons, you know? The Russian Romanis were known as the performers, the group itself. They were known as the performers. But a lot of the Romani Chals, which are the British Romanis, they were known for their smithing. You know, that's what they were doing for a living. So it's fascinating because they have Romanis in New Zealand that do a lot of horse trading and they have farms. And I found, I don't know how many of you are on Facebook, but I have a Facebook authors page, and I posted a photo of gypsies from Finland. And this is the most amazing thing that I've seen in a long time, because my friend just came back from Finland, and she says, do you know in Finland the gypsies wear these elaborate velvet dresses that are embroiled with silver thread, and the government actually gives them money every year to get new dresses because this is like their official dress, like the Amish. They have to wear these, the women have to wear them. So of course I looked up, you know, I Googled, and I put that picture up there. So if you have Facebook, I don't think you have to have Facebook, right? If you just look up my name and Facebook, I found a picture, and it's basically like they just stepped out of Victorian England. It's the most amazing thing. They do not look like the Romanis that you would picture, you know, the big flowing dresses and the flowers. Very, very modest. You know, everything's really closed, long sleeves, velvety, and I was fascinated by it.
You're a wealth of information, and you bring everything colored. I mean, so much color in what you're saying. Have you thought of writing your own Harlequin type book?
What an idea!
Seriously.
You know,
cookbooks or
I started writing romances about 20 years ago because that was just, I still love, I don't read them as much, but I will always love romance novels. So there. I came out. I'm gonna just
you need to do that. Yeah.
I love it because it's so, you know, some people say, well, it's kind of misleading because it's always happy endings and all of that stuff. But sometimes you just need
do different venues, but also do your history. It's amazing. It's fascinating.
It's fascinating to me.
It's fascinating.
Like I said, I was speaking at a conference for Association of Personal Historians, and I was amazed that there were people. There's an actual group of people who do just that. They collect histories of families and they help them preserve them.
Fascinating. Or have your recipes with your family stores, or just everything. Just pull everything. I mean, different venues.
Well, my
It's
next
amazing.
project, if I'm going to do a memoir, I wanted to talk more about the Greek-Armenian side, because the stories there are just as fascinating.
Yeah.
You know?
Greeks are very bright.
It's fascinating.
I just
My
lost
best
a
friend
Greek
would say the same. She's full
adopted
Greek.
son. I just lost a Greek adopted son.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking because they're so kind and good. I wonder about this DNA, whether we cannot find. I'm very interested with my own background. My father came from a well-to-do Ukrainian family. I know nothing about them, very little. I just wonder if the DNA would help out.
Do they do that now? You can
Yeah,
do a
I've seen that on
DNA thing,
TV.
and
Where they,
really, that's possible. Ukraine has such a rich history. I mean, they, you know, they were founded by Vikings,
yeah.
and then they were taking over. The Turks took over. And it was just like,
And they look Asian too.
well, Mongols were
Mongols.
ruling over the area for over 300 years, so that kind of helped that. My father is, my grandfather is a Ukrainian gypsy.
Oh,
And they were called khaladitko. That was an actual word for a Russian-Ukrainian gypsy, which meant soldiers. I don't know where that word came from, but I would assume they were
in the
warring in
military?
somewhere.
Yeah,
You know, because there was so much conflict in that area throughout history.
I know they went to the
I have heard
gymnasium.
the book, I think it's called Bury Me Standing.
Yes. Do you know the rest of that saying?
No, I don't.
Let me see if I remember.
It's called Bury Me Standing, and it's a story about, well, it's not a story, it's about.
So it's by Isabella Fonseca. She's not Romani, but she lived among the gypsies in Europe, and she writes a fascinating book. And bury me standing is a Romani saying. The rest of it goes like this: bury me standing, for I have knelt for too long. So, and actually there are gypsies in certain cultures who are buried standing this way instead of this way. It's kind of like the last stand against the oppression, you know. I'm going to go down this way. Go ahead.
What's your next piece that you got?
My next book, I haven't started writing it yet, but it is why I'm going to Washington, D.C. I have a fellowship at the Library of Congress to do research on the next book. And it will be a fictional novel, but I will base it on my family. It's just easier to write it as a fiction, because then you don't have to ask for permissions. You can get away with a lot.
Fiction has a lot of nonfiction.
Exactly. Right? And it will be based on, again, on my Armenian Greek side of the family. I can't wait to do the research, because Library of Congress, I didn't realize that they had all these underground tunnels with these 500-600-year-old books there that you can only see with a security guard. Companies, right? I know, I'm a nerd, you see? I'm like, I can't wait. So I think that's going to be an incredible experience. Yeah. Anybody else?
A question. When your mother ran off with your father, did her ex-husband or her just past husband give the audition? I mean, they had to all be audited to perform. You must have given
You
the
know,
okay.
nobody ever asked that question. And I'm glad you did, because I feel really bad for him. He did. He okayed it, and he let her go. He loved her so much, he became an alcoholic after. And, like I said, he came from this really prominent, rich family, and he just became like a homeless guy. And I think she just broke his heart.
What was the question?
What if my mom's first husband gave the group permission to perform after she ran off with my father? Yeah.
You should have waited till you had the permission to run off.
They couldn't. You should have seen my face when my mom told me that they ran off together that same night. I could not believe it, because your parents are, to a certain degree, they're like saints, right? I mean, right? They don't do things like that.
Very spontaneous.
Right.
Well, what did he do with the two women on his arm when you saw him?
You know what? Afterward, he had many more. So
Anyway,
he just
pushed that
continued.
aside.
He just continued his way of life. He was married to a woman. My mom was an amazing businesswoman. She was that kind of a person who, even if an inspector said you cannot perform in our city, she would make sure that they would perform. If she wanted it, it happened. She had a way of speaking with people and getting them to think the way that she wanted them to think. And I think that's part of why she became eventually the administrator for the group. Because, in reality, this group of Romanis, 30 people, right? They're performers, but that means also that they drink all the time. Most of the men are drunk before the shows. I remember one time my dad goes up on the stage after the show has started already, right? He's taking his time. He goes up on stage, he sits at the piano, and he starts taking off his socks, puts them on the piano, and starts just talking about how nice the weather is, because he's just completely drunk. And so my mom was the one who could kind of keep him in line, She made sure the show really went on, because otherwise, it's just like rock style lifestyle. You don't have to play rock and roll to have it. I remember way too many fights. And that's when the Greek-Armenian side, the memories came in handy, because that's when I felt that the stability, the family, those kind of ties. Where on this side it was always unpredictable. So
Oh, you had an exciting.
yeah, when I was 5, I really had an exciting life.
You still have an exciting life.
Mortified.
Oh my goodness,
He's
thanks.
probably mortified.
I don't know. My 13-year-old son keeps telling me that all I do is write. He complains. He's like, Mom, really? Like, you could have done other things. All you do is just sit at a computer and write.
It's your voice.
That's what you have to do when you're a writer.
Huh? Just,
That's what you have to do when you're a writer, is you sit around and write.
but you know, kids, they always see,
Right, yeah.
like, if I was out and playing on stage, singing on stage, you'd probably say, oh, you're always on stage and you're never paying attention. That's what he says now. You're always writing. You're never paying attention to me. You never listen to things that I say. You can never win.
I know,
Right?
that's creative, and we all gain something from it. So
I hope so.
Writing's
I know I talk a
fantastic.
lot, and I'm sorry about that.
But most of our Americans come from mixed marriages, mixed family backgrounds. My
That's
grandson has nine different countries.
really.
Yeah.
And see, I don't think we should have to pick. I
No,
think
he
we
didn't
should
pick. He
be
just-
equally proud of everything.
Yeah,
everything
with
that
all
we
these
are.
intermarriages,
Mhm.
that produces, and it produces a very creative person.
Well, you know what they say about purebreds, like, and mutts,
Yeah.
right?
The mutts are smarter than the pure. That's true.
No offense to any purebreds. There's no such thing, right? Some people forget that sometimes, right? I think we're done, right?
Well, no, you have to find
Yeah,
out.
sorry,
Oh, I have to sign. I was just telling my cousin, I said, you know, there's probably going to be just you and I. We'll just go down, sing, and get some coffee.
No, they've been
So
here
this
for a
is
while.
amazing. Thank you. I really do.
You're wonderful.
Can I take a picture of you? Is it all right?
I sure. Here, let me do it with you.
That would be weird, wouldn't it? Can I just sit in the audience? Can you take a
sit right
picture?
here.
You have the camera? You guys don't mind? You better hold the book.
No, you don't live here, don't you?
Not anymore.
You should hold the book. Mine's on my phone. I have to hold my phone.
Can I sit here? You okay with that?
I just want to do something different. Hello,
With my gigantic, with her audience.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Let me stand by.
One more?
Are you going?
I blocked.
Don't block. You're going to be on Facebook.
Oh.
Okay.